Hi everyone, it's Amy here from Moon Life Yoga. I wanted to share a story today which is pretty close to my heart, and it's the main reason why I'm so interested in women's hormones, nutrition and yoga. And that's the story of how I lost my period for 8 years and how I finally managed to recover and get it back. And I've seen a lot of people sharing their stories online about hypothalamic amenorrhea and recovery from restrictive dieting and the all-in approach. So I thought I'll add my story out there as well, because I know that these videos were really helpful for me back when I was trying to recover my period. So my story started when I was around 16. Well, let's just say I got my period at a normal age. I was around 12 and I had a normal period for about 4 years. Till I was 16, and around that time I decided to go into birth control as a contraceptive, and I also joined the gym and I started becoming more aware of my body and started to try and lose weight. I was restricting my calories, taking advice from women's magazines like 100, 1000, 1200 calorie diet plans and all of this stuff. And basically what happened was, when I came off the pill when I was 17, my periods didn't come back. And I went to the doctor after 6 months or so, and they told me, like, this is normal, don't worry about it. It can sometimes take a year or 2 years for things to like restabilize and for your body to start producing its own natural hormones again. So I was like, fine, that's okay. I wasn't too worried about it at that point. And so I just carried on with my life. I carried on exercising, I carried on dieting, and I'd had a couple of years where I was at college and I was really just focused on like socializing, and I had a boyfriend at the time. I was just living my life, but there was really this current of being like obsessed about my body and food and exercise underneath everything. So after a couple of years, when I was around 18, I went back to the doctor and I said, listen, my period still hasn't come back. Like, what's going on? This surely isn't normal. So the doctor did a bunch of tests, and they did my blood test and checking my hormone levels and everything, and asking me about my lifestyle. And basically what they said is that I was normal and healthy. Just because I was so active, they said it was normal to lose your period. Like, a lot of women who are active lose their period, not to worry about it, just to keep maintaining my healthy lifestyle, keep exercising, keep eating well, and maintaining a normal BMI, and everything will be okay. Because at this time I was in the normal BMI range. I was at the lower end, about a BMI of 18.5, so right at the bottom of a natural weight range for my height. But I wasn't underweight or anything that a doctor would be overly concerned about. So I think even though I was concerned about my period, I was more concerned about maintaining this like life of a health and fitness nut. And so I took the doctor's advice and I just carried on doing what I was doing and forgot about my period again. So fast forward a few years at university, I carried on with all the behaviours I was doing before, and I also went through a lot of stress of moving to a new city, living by myself, studying for an engineering degree. I was drinking a lot of coffee, I was going out a lot, drinking alcohol, meeting new people. It was a really, really intense time, like physically and emotionally. So that was very tough on my body. And basically my period still didn't come back all the way through university. And by this time I was really starting to get concerned, and I casually mentioned it to a few friends of mine, and they were really shocked. They couldn't believe that I hadn't had my period for, I think it was around like 6 years at this time. And I started to get really self-conscious about it. I didn't feel like a woman, and I just knew that something wasn't right. Like, I didn't feel unhealthy, but I just didn't really feel connected to myself either. So when I think it was my final year of university, when I really started focusing on getting my period back again and started doing some research. I went back to doctors, and by this point I started to realize that the fact that I was maintaining such a low weight and restricting my calories and exercising so much could potentially be a problem. And so I started getting this idea in my head that maybe I needed to change. But I still wasn't really prepared to actually do anything about it, and I let myself just carry on until after I graduated and I got my first job. And then at this time, my cat is in the background. At this time, I went back to the doctor, and they did another scan of my ovaries. And what they found this time was that both my ovaries had a bunch of small cysts on them. And they also checked my hormone levels and found that most of my hormones were low, but that my testosterone was just outside the normal range at the higher end. And from this, they diagnosed me with PCOS, and I was totally shocked. Like, the way they broke the news to me was really, really harsh, and they said that potentially I wouldn't be able to have children naturally. I have to be prepared that in the future I might need to have IVF. And this shocked me so badly. I just broke down emotionally. I was absolutely gutted. I remember being at work in the office when they called me to give me my test results, and I just started crying, and I couldn't stop for the whole afternoon. So after this point, I started trying to recover from PCOS, and I didn't want to go back on the pill, which was one of the recommendations from the doctor, as well as like a bunch of other medications. So I started looking about how to cure PCOS naturally, and I came across some coaches online. I won't say who they were, but they were promoting a plant-based diet, a high-fruit diet, as a way to cure PCOS. And I was already vegan at this point. I had been vegan for about 9 months. I decided to make that change for other reasons, probably partly because of the restrictive mindset that I was still in at the time. So when I saw this information, I was like, okay, this is a path that I could do, and I really went for it. And I tried the high fruit diet for about 6 months, and yeah, I was feeling okay. Like, I finally let go of the restrictions of calories, which was such a big improvement for me. And I was still exercising, but I wasn't exercising in the gym as much as I used to. I was doing more like sports like cycling, walking, and swimming. And I think my body really liked that, and I did start to feel more energetic, and I felt brighter as a person again. But my period still didn't come back, and so after, this was about 2016, I think, the end of 2016, and I was still like researching online, trying to figure out what was going on, and I finally found a researcher called Dr. Nicola Rinaldi, and she has a book called No Period, Now What? And in that book, I really connected with it, and I realized what was actually going on in my body, and that I didn't have PCOS. I didn't have any of the physical symptoms of PCOS, which is typically like male signs of high male hormones in the body, like male pattern hair loss, excess hair on the body, often weight gain or blood sugar issues. I didn't have any of that. And my symptoms were much more in line with something called hypothalamic amenorrhea, which is losing your period from a combination of not eating enough, over exercising, and being too stressed. And I could definitely relate to all three of those. And I'd read so many books before. I'd read like recovery books, because I used to restrict and binge eat, and I was really concerned about the binge eating. I thought that was the issue. So I read so many eating disorder recovery books and watched videos online. But this was the first book that really spoke to me and actually sparked my action to change. So I was still vegan at this point, and I decided for ethical reasons that I wanted to stay vegan, but I decided to take the all-in approach that Nicola recommended, which is basically stopping exercise, taking a period of rest, and eating as much as your body is asking for. And for me at the time, that was a lot of food. I definitely had a period of extreme hunger. Like I said, I'd already been having periods of binge eating like throughout all of these years of restriction, but once I finally decided to just let go and eat whatever I wanted, I went through a period of about 4 months where I was so hungry. I would eat, I don't know exactly the numbers because I wasn't counting calories at this time. I decided to let go of all the diet behaviors, but probably double like what a normal person would eat in one day. And yeah, I would eat like packets of biscuits, I would eat bowls and bowls of cereal, whole jars of nut butters, like rounds and rounds of toast with peanut butter or jam or honey. And I just felt like a bottomless pit. I would be so full physically, my stomach would be ready to pop, and I would feel sick, but I would still mentally be hungry and not satisfied. So, but I'd committed, and I really decided that I would just honor my hunger no matter what. So I carried this on for about 4 months, and during this time, the only exercise I was doing was walking to work and back, which was half an hour each way, and I was doing yoga a few times a week, like online yoga. I was doing that at home. But I quit all other sports. I stopped going to the gym, stopped riding my bike, and fitness had been a really big thing for me. So this was a huge challenge. It was so difficult. I felt like I was losing my identity. But I really threw myself into the world of recovery, and I used this time to focus on myself, to start reading like anti-diet books and listening to anti-diet podcasts, totally revamped my social media, changed all the people that I followed online to people that would support my recovery, and unfollowed anyone that I would compare myself to. So not to say that this was an easy journey, but those things all helped, and I'll make some more videos in the future about some of the challenges that I went through. And Nicola says in her book she doesn't give a time frame when for how long your period should take to come back. It could be 6 months, it could be 6 weeks, it could be 2 years. So I really didn't know what to expect, and I was afraid for sure. But what actually happened was, after about 4 months, my hunger really started to normalize again. I was still eating a lot, but nowhere near like I had been. I'd gained not loads of weight, but quite a bit of weight in this short period of time. And I'd reached the fertile BMI that Nicola recommends, which is between 22 and 23. So my body was finally feeling safe again, and after 4 months I got my period back, and honestly it was the most exciting, joyous moment of my life. I was so happy. I called my mom. I was crying, which sounds so funny now, because the first time I got my period, it was a total non-event. I was more worried than anything, but this time I was so happy, because it had been such an emotional roller coaster to go through to get to that point. So after that point, the journey wasn't over. I had to carry on feeding my body, resting as much as I could, and I did that for at least till I had 3 healthy cycles. So that was a total of 7 months. And after that point, I could start to slowly introduce exercise again, and my appetite naturally lowered as well. And I stayed vegan all of this time. I'm not actually vegan anymore. This is 3 years later now. I've had 3 years of regular healthy cycles or thereabouts. And during that time I have actually decided not to be vegan, but I won't go into that in this video. I'll make a future video about my reasons for doing that. But I did recover my period whilst being vegan, but without any restrictions. So I would not follow any specific diet, no high carb, no low carb, no fruit only, no whole foods only. I just ate anything as long as it was vegan, and it was a time of complete freedom for me after so many years of restraining myself and putting all of these diet rules, counting calories, limiting myself, like avoiding certain food groups, avoiding bread, avoiding sweets, avoiding junk food. I really just let go and managed to relax a lot of these rules, and not only did I get my period back, but I really did get my life back during that period. So I think that's all I want to say today on my period recovery journey. Like I said, I'm going to make some more videos in the future about the different challenges along the way, because I've made it sound so straightforward in this video, and it really wasn't. It wasn't a linear path at all. And there were many times that I tried to recover before this time, when I ended up relapsing and going back to my old behaviors. So I hope you enjoyed hearing this story, and if nothing else, I hope it inspires you, if you're struggling to get your period back, to know that you can do it. It's never too late. I didn't have mine for 8 years, and now my body is functioning like normal, healthy person again. So yeah, that's all I want to say, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.